Welcome to the latest episode of the Influencers Podcast, and what is actually a mini-series inside the Influencers Podcast, which is the Life Until 23 series of the Influencers Podcast. In this mini-series, we'll be talking to many of the musicians involved in my debut album, titled Life Until 23, although the conversations we'll be having will be about music in general. On today's episode, we have somebody who has been a true trailblazer in South Indian music. In a time where there were very few female music technicians, she became a professional sound engineer at the tender age of 16, working with several leading musicians across India. She has since expanded her abilities to become an incredible singer, music producer, and composer as well, with her work reflecting a beautiful confluence between traditional styles and modern influences, with a particular emphasis on out-of-the-box vocal arrangements too. Today, not only does she cover myriad roles within music, but she has also excelled in other art forms such as photography, design, animation, and video editing. I'm so excited to welcome to the podcast the incredible yet way too humble artist that is Sindhu Rajaramji.
Hi Nishad, thank you for having me. I'm really privileged to be giving an interview. First of all, it was amazing working with you on your song. You have some amazing musical sensibilities, and I loved working on your song. It was beautiful.
Is it my turn now to make faces and try to make you laugh, or?
Nah, you can just go on. Skip to the end. The end. Okay, bye.
No, we haven't even started because this podcast is all about you, and I want to go back to the very beginning, and sort of walk the journey you've been through in music, because you've been through a lot of different things in a lot of different capacities. But I want to start from the very beginning. And I want to ask, what's your first memory in music as a child?
Oh, excellent question. So I think something that I would never forget is my first day of school. I walked into the prayer hall and there was a beautiful upright piano. And there was a nice woman with beautiful posture sitting and playing the piano. There was something amusing about the whole, I don't know, like how the instrument sounded, because I had not seen one before. I think I was pretty young, probably like 4 or something. And the first thing I remember was coming home and asking my father that I wanted a piano. And he was like, whoa, this child is really different. She's not asking for a Barbie doll or, other things, but she wants a piano. So, yeah, it was that. And I'm pretty sure every time I feel like there was some progress in my life with regards to music, I still go back to that day and keep, reminiscing some of those memories, because that was really special to me.
Did you pick up the piano after that? Or was it just a sort of one-off?
Oh, not really. So then Appa got me a keyboard from somewhere and I just started to play, all these rhymes and stuff. So I never really learned because I didn't have the patience to learn. And then after a point, my mom started to learn for me. So she thought she could teach me. But then I started finding flaws in her playing and I was like, and my mom was like, no, this is not going to work out. My mom is not a musician, so like she would play ta 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 ta, and I'd be like, no, it's not that note.
But you had that sense to know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think that sense I have from my dad. Like my dad's side of, they all have a ear for music. None of them are professionals, but they all did. Like my dad's siblings, all of them, they all grew up listening to Carnatic music and MS Visa, some beautiful collection of music.
So was that the music you were sort of growing up listening to then? Was it mostly classical?
Not at all. So much later, obviously, thanks to Mr. A.R. Rahman, right from Roja. So I remember Roja released when I was in second standard. And from then on, there was something that caught my attention when it was his music, because the production was very different from what I'd heard before. I was not exposed to English or other languages of pop music. It was pretty much Indian music, Indian film music. No, I did not listen to Carnatic, and I found it boring. I'm sorry. But, um, yeah, it was definitely Mr. A.R. Rahman's music, and I think I grew up listening to his music, and then there was a point where I would actually keenly listen to how things were mixed, and this was even before headphones were introduced to me. It was pretty much from a typical boombox, and I would just put my head between the speakers and listen to all the sounds and all the different things that we've not heard from the composers before Rahman sir. So that got me interested to actually get behind the process of making music. So sound engineering is something that I figured was something that I should do. And someone actually, there was like a family friend who said, "Hey, that's a sound engineer. I think that's someone. I think that's the job you want to like do. You'd want to like record artists and put stuff together." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's called sound engineering. Okay." And luckily, I mean, I was in Bangalore at the point. My dad got transferred to Chennai, and it was all the more convenient. It's like how the universe decides to, give you things at the right time. So I finished my 10th standard. My dad moved to Chennai first, and then my mom and I followed. And I studied sound engineering at SAE. And yeah, the rest is history because I started work right after that.
Mm. I mean, that's really interesting. Most people, when they say, they got interested in music, they sort of get interested in like maybe a certain instrument, or they start, they start to learn singing or something like that. But for you, it's much more the sort of sound aspect of things. You were talking
Mhm.
about being fascinated
Mhm.
with mixes and things like that. That's really interesting.
I think I'm also one of those people where you give me a song, I'm going to be listening to more of the production than the main melody or the lyrics in it.
Hmm.
Like sometimes it's the melody that will catch you, but lyrics is the last thing that will go into my head. I'm a very production based person, so I'm interested in the overall package rather than just the melody of the song.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think that's probably what got me into whatever I wanted to do much later. But yeah, from sound engineering, I got into music production. From there, it was more about possibilities of chords and stuff. And then from there, it took me to vocal harmonies. And, it's an ocean. So you explore one thing at a time, and then you figure there's so much more in it. And then pitch correction is another thing that I kind of took interest to because there was a person I met many years ago. His name is Vijay Shiva. He's actually a Carnatic musician. I'm sure you would have heard of him.
Yeah.
So I got to work with him. He had recorded a kacheri somewhere, and there was a person along with him. I think they were looking for someone to help pitch correct the concert so they could release it on tapes.
Hmm.
And I was just a technician at that point because I had the jnanam, I had the knowledge of music, but I wasn't that sharp with pitching.
Hmm.
But I started the project. It was about a 2.5 hour concert, I think. We took about 3 days to complete the entire concert. The third day, I could actually say, "This is 5 cents flatter," or yeah. So thanks to Mr. Vijay Shiva, the training started there. And then this is way before Melodyne existed, and this is the time where you had to like choose the audio and then say transpose or pitch it or whatever, pitch correction. I'm not sure I don't even remember what software it was. It was not even Logic or Nuendo. It was before that. So yeah, there you could say 20 cents or 10 cents or 5 cents and stuff like that. So it was pretty interesting.
That's really cool. Oh wow. So later on you became interested in the sort of pitch correction side of things. Earlier
Also,
on, was it more just recording and being able to set up mics and that kind of thing? Or what was it when I know you were doing sound engineering, but what were the sort of aspects you were most
for
involved
me, it was the fun part was to track musicians, and the fun part was to interact with these musicians.
in?
And every time I would meet up with different instrumentalists or singers or composers, I don't know, the kind of energy they would bring into the studio was very amusing. So yeah, it was the entire process. Miking was one of them, of course, but I'm not going to call myself a techie in that sense, because there are so many other engineers who are very, very, very sharp. They would say, "Hey, this mic would work for this instrument." I'm not that sharp, but I did take interest in miking instruments, and a lot of instrumentalists would especially teach me how to mic, because they've been to other studios and worked with other engineers. They would say, you know, this position would be better for an instrument like this, or if it's like a double miking thing, yeah. So I learned a lot in the process, but I think it was an overall thing for me, because I was interested in a lot of things. It was just not one particular thing. So again, I'm more of a musician, less of a sound person. But that said, because I studied sound engineering, it helps me. Like when I produce my music, it helps me produce in such a way that I make sure all the frequencies are covered and there's nothing clashing. Like the bass guitar, or the synth bass shouldn't be clashing with a kick, for example, or there should be elements of highs to balance the sound. So that's something that comes naturally to me, maybe because I studied sound engineering.
When you say that comes naturally to you, is that like a conscious thought process that you go through while producing, or is it just sort of like a sixth sense kind of thing?
Kind of both.
Okay.
I haven't thought about it. I mean, it's a good
Right.
question. I haven't thought about it. But I think intuitively you feel like something is missing.
Hmm.
And also because you have some training, you know what exactly to put in there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much like how you learn to cook. Like initially you know something is missing, and then oh, it's salt. Oh, no, it's that particular spice, and a little bit of that spice. So and as you get used to it, you just exactly know what is missing. So it's very much like that.
Yeah, and when you're talking about, undergoing training, you mentioned SAE. What specifically were the sort of things you were doing at SAE? It might be a long time ago. Are we going
It
really
was
down memory lane here?
well, we learned a lot of interesting things, because back in the day we were still, I think, I mean, we did get to learn analog recording. So we recorded and mixed with analog ADATs, and there was like an analog mixer.
Oh
We
my
got to do
gosh.
that. And then, yeah, we also learned Pro Tools. And then, so there was like a stark difference between analog and digital recording. Um, so, I mean, I think pretty much all the basics, I guess.
I mean, to be honest,
Yeah.
I don't know what like basics within a sound engineering course would encompass, because I mean, I'm a junior musician, probably an infant sound person.
There were so many things that I don't even remember. There were things like basic electronics, and I
Uh-huh.
remembered being terrible at that. But there were people who got into live sound, and because they were also really sharp with this side of
Right.
electronics and stuff, they were kind of good. Because, when it comes to live sound, there would be delays and way to set your speaker at what distance and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that gets a little too technical for me. I'm like I said, I'm more of a musician, so I enjoy the process of bringing things together. I don't necessarily. Um, I'm not a gear person.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, that's
very
something I
unusual
realized.
for a sound engineer to say.
I'm not one anymore, apparently. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think I transitioned over time. So
Mm.
you just figure out what you like more. And again, nowadays when it comes to production, the boring part is to go through all the tones and see what you want,
Right.
because there is something in your head that you want to put,
Yeah.
but how do I translate that into what I want to get? So I have to go through the tones, because I'm looking for one particular thing,
Mm,
and that process delays everything.
mm.
So yeah, I think it's a combination of what you want in your head versus how to achieve that. Yeah, it's a lot of things.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Going a bit off topic, it's really interesting you bring that up. The idea of, how it takes time to figure out the sounds and the tones you want.
Yeah.
Like that's the sort of thing where like I wish AI could do a better job. Like,
It
don't
is
make
getting there.
music, just help me find the sound I
Yeah,
want.
exactly. No, but we are getting there, I'm pretty sure, because but yeah, I know, like you say, if you're very particular about that one particular kick, how are you going to describe the kick? Because you can hear it in your head. You can't even tell it to another person. How are you going to tell it to an AI? Right? I think it's all about communicating what you want
Right.
correctly. I think AI is all about that. So if you're terrible in communication, AI is not your thing, I think.
No, I remember I saw this mock-up once. It was basically it was a prototype, but it was basically you put an input into ChatGPT, and
Hmm.
basically you say you input a song, and you say, let's say there's like a guitar solo, and then you say, okay, listen to the guitar solo from 2 minutes 07 to 2 minutes 32.
Okay.
Help me replicate that tone on Guitar Rig.
Oh, yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Right?
See, I've not done those things. So yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, a reference is definitely a better way to bring what you want.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. But often you won't even remember what reference it was.
That's
You
so
just
true.
know, like, hey, what song was that? You know,
That's so true.
you're like, hey, there was one snare. What song was that again? You know. So yeah, it's a
At
bit
the
of this
end,
and
we
that.
all default to scrolling through all of the loops
Hmm.
in one shot. You must have seen these memes or like short videos where it's like what people think a producer is and what people think is like,
And
someone
what
jamming
was
out.
that?
What it actually is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I digress. Coming back to you. As we were talking about, you started off your sound engineering journey very early, and something. I was preparing for another podcast as well. With
Okay.
somebody else involved in the album. You know her, Anjana Rajagopalan. Um,
Oh, nice.
she
Okay.
sung on the album. Um,
Beautiful.
and I was sort of listening to one of her interviews, and she was talking about how difficult or how, challenging it was for her not to have role models like her in the sort of music composing or even in the technician space, because
Okay.
those tend to be quite male-dominated fields.
Okay.
And she cited you as like
Mm-hmm.
one of the only people she could sort of look up to as an example. Now, if
Oh, wow.
she feels
Okay.
that way,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
remember just sort of thinking, what must have it been like for you if you were the sort of first in that ladder?
Okay. Good question. But I never looked at it that way. I
Interesting.
never looked at a career with anything to do with your gender.
Mm-hmm.
Because why should it matter? I'm not someone who's going to carry a mixer. I'm not someone who's. I mean, being a female has nothing to do with your sensibilities. I mean, so I never looked at it that way. But that said, there have been women engineers, and there was, in fact, one Geeta, her name is, and I think she worked in Real Image. I'm not sure. So she was someone who existed even before I went to SAE. I've
Oh.
never met her, but I've only heard about her.
Mhm.
So there have been engineers, but they're very like sparingly out there. I think over time we all figured what we really wanted to do. So engineers became producers, producers became composers. Some decided to stay as producers. Some became singers. So yeah, there were women in everything. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, there are very, very few women in the industry, but I don't think it should have anything to do with what we are doing. But I do get Anjana's point because she's faced a lot of challenges because of that. Touchwood, I didn't have to. Yeah, I mean, there were times where I would finish work very late at night, like 2 or 3, and I had to get home. I didn't
Right,
have a
right.
vehicle of my own, but there were people who made sure I got home safe. Like if it was a client, they made sure they dropped me home. So it came out of empathy, like, oh, let's not leave her alone.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I was in a much safe space than one would imagine. But I've also seen some kind of creepy people. But I mean, that never stopped me from becoming who I was. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was challenging to, be who I wanted to be.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, each of us have our own stories. Unfortunately, Anjana has been through a lot. But yeah, for me, role model was Mr. A.R. Rahman. So it didn't matter to me whether he was a guy or a woman. He was just a god for me.
I think he's God for all of
Yeah.
us. I'm
Yeah,
actually
exactly. Exactly.
I'm actually curious to know, and I wasn't able to find this out online.
Hmm.
Did he ever get the
Okay.
chance to sort of work with him or be involved with him in any professional capacity?
I interned with him for a very short while. This was during Gajni.
Right.
Um, and then what else? Shivaji.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
yeah, yeah,
this during Sridhar sir's time or bit?
yeah. This was
Right.
before he passed. Yeah, he was
Okay,
around too.
okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the timings weren't working out for me because, it screwed up with my sleep schedules and my health and stuff.
Fair
So
enough.
I couldn't continue with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did get to meet him many years ago, and he has an elephant memory. He would still remember. So, but yeah, working or watching him, I didn't work. I was just watching everybody work. Well, seeing the man at work is another experience. That's something one can't explain what it feels like. They can only say incidences, but the energy one feels around him is something nobody can explain. That there's a certain amount of man's a genius, and then it's like he's so humble. Oh wow, he's the man is full of surprises, and he has a little sense of humor. And then he has a lot of unexpected things. He's like a little package with everything put together. So yeah, he's God. That's it.
You said you can't really, it's hard to explain in words, but you can only talk about incidents or certain things that happened. Are there any specific sort of things that happened or things you saw that stick in your memory?
Well, I think this was one of the instances. I mean, it was not necessarily an incident, but
Yeah.
how you see his creativity flow. One was he was recording scores for a movie that never actually came out. The film was shot in Kashi. It
Okay.
was about you know some Western people who had come to India because the girl's boyfriend, she's found a reincarnation of the ex-boyfriend who's like passed away, something like that.
Okay.
So she comes to Kashi looking for him, and then she's passing the streets of Kashi, and then she hears all these guys do jing chicka kind of bhajan. So I remember about 20 percussionists sitting in the recording room doing all sorts of things, including Shivamani. And I think they were there for a lot of other projects. So this was one of the things that they were there for. And in the mix, what he did was there was a lot of reverb in that. And it sounded like it was coming from another world. Basically, her mind is somewhere else.
Right,
She's
right.
she's in search of this man.
Hmm.
But she's hearing these things, but it's not significant.
Right.
So it's just like a lot of reverb coming from another world kind of a thing. So I was like, wow, one would never think about having percussion as a ambience, be 20 people sitting and performing just to be in another world. So and some of the funny things that happened also was one of their mobile phones rang,
Mhm.
and he was like, யாரது எடுத்து பிடிச்ச யூடியூப்ல போட்டுருவேன். So he has this weird sense of humor, and you're like,
You don't know whether he's angry or joking.
exactly. And then there was another one. So Shivaji's background score. You remember the song Sahana Saral, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So there was this piece, right?
Yep.
And I don't know if you remember that particular piece coming as a score in the film. I can find it on YouTube and send you.
Okay.
So there were a bunch of singers doing like just humming of this, right? The man just improvised the melody on the spot, and he made it like Na 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 is the original melody.
Yeah.
Na 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 na.
Huh.
He just like we all got goosebumps. We were like, ooh. So, and it happened on the spot. I don't think he had planned it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there are a lot of those little incidences. But yeah, these are the things I can actually recall. But I'm sure there would be more if I like think about it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on.
Well, we'll move on from one composer to you being a composer.
Okay.
Let's talk about Blossom. I really love that
okay.
song. It's a
Thank
beautiful
you.
song.
Thank
Speaking
you.
of uplifting sort of, bright songs on the note of Sahana Saral. Sorry, I tried to transition, didn't
Yeah,
work.
okay. That's okay. No. You're good. Absolutely fine.
The Blossom's really cool because I read that you said in a separate interview that it came from the emotions that you were feeling during your period of marriage. And
Yes.
you said that the tune actually occurred to you while you were sort of shopping for your wedding.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I'm interested in that connection between how emotions turn into a song and
That's a
how.
question you ask the Almighty, I think. Because I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not someone who I'm not a composer, okay, and I find it really hard to even compose interludes for a song I'm producing for somebody else.
Mm.
But sometimes these melodies just happen out of the blue. Sometimes it's probably something you heard before and you've improvised it in your head, or sometimes it's just coming out of nowhere. And typically, what I do is, since these things don't happen that often, I just like take my phone and I record it on my phone. So what started as that was na 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 na. I was like, oh wow, okay, I have a melody. I want to make that into a song. So I got home and I kind of worked on it and improvised and I made the whole Pallavi happen. And eventually, I think after I got married and I moved, I had a lot more time. I kind of worked on the Charanam when the entire song happened, and once the melody is there, it's very easy for me to produce. But the beauty of the song was, I heard every instrument, and sometimes when I very rarely when this happens, when I have a melody in my head, I hear the entire arrangement in my head. So I kind of make notes with just my voice recorder on my phone. I give references to whatever, like the AI thing you were talking about. So I am the AI there,
Right.
again. So I kind of throw in some of my points, and when I sit in front of the computer, all I'm doing is just executing whatever was in my head.
Right.
So that happened. That was in 2010. It was just sitting in my hard disk for the longest time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I sang the rough track, and then this friend of mine called Naveen, he penned the lyrics and he said, "Hey, it's a beautiful song for a mom and daughter. So let's not keep it a typical love song," because for him, he was inspired to just, as a mom who's just given birth to her daughter, she's just singing to the daughter, and then the daughter grows up and then she's singing to her daughter. Stuff
That's
like
the
that.
interesting part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he came up with these beautiful lyrics, and it was just sitting in my hard drive. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and do this. Sang the song. It was in my hard drive, and then pandemic happened so many years later, because I wasn't doing much music at that time, because I wasn't working and I was missing the industry. I was just more into art and exploring other things. Thanks to the pandemic, I started making music again because people really finally realized that it was possible to make music online. I was pretty much in touch with Mr. KJ Singh. I've known him from, I met him at Rayman's studio.
Oh, okay.
So he and I have been like Facebook friends and chatting often and stuff. So then I reached out to him and I said, Paji, I would like you to listen to this and then give me your inputs on this. He was like, man, this should be out. It sounds like it should be a movie. Like, come on, let's release it. I said, will you help me mix it? Because I haven't done anything in 10 years. So I was not even confident in mixing it. He said, yeah, sure, go ahead. You finish your project and tell me what you want it to sound like. Give me like a rough mix and I'll go ahead and mix it for you. He very sweetly offered to mix it for me, and he also gave me a lot of creative inputs. And then I reached out to Sharanya. I had just met Sharanya a few months before that. I lived in the US, so she had come to perform there, and I had I'd worked with her father many years ago, and through her father is when I met Sharanya. And I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, would you be able to sing this song for me? Because I'm hearing it in your voice." She was very thrilled and she said, "Yeah, sure." And then she sang the mother's part, and then I did the harmonies. And then another friend of mine from back in the day, Guru Priya, I decided that I would have her sing the daughter's voice. She has a very thin, sort of very sweet voice. So I got these two to sing. Yeah, Paji mixed it for me. I kind of gave him the rough mix, and he was, I think we went back and forth for like a couple of weeks, and he was very sweet. He was like, he was giving me every mix. He would number mix 1B, and 2C, 2D, and then it'll go on till it went on till 5. And then I was feeling really guilty. I was taking up too much of his time because at that point he didn't have a maid, he didn't have a cook, he had to take care of his cats. So he and his wife were responsible, about doing everything in their house and also work. So he was like, "Hey, this is nothing. I've gone to 20, so this is nothing. I'm glad you fixed it at 5C." I'm like, "Oh wow, okay." And the beauty is, I wanted sort of a very retro mix. I wanted it to be sounding very radio ocean. I had this Karnataka reference in my head.
Yeah.
So the 5 from 5A, B, C, D, whatever that was, I was just not. I was feeling it was too compressed, and that is something, as composers or the person who writes the song has in their mind. And I was like, "Paji sounds very compressed. Paji, it sounds very compressed. Can it loosen out a bit?" And finally, he switched to his manly analog compressor, which he hadn't touched in many years. He was planning to sell it. He said, "Guess what? I use this." No. So what happened was, I heard the mix and I was like, "Yes, this is what I want. What did you do?" He was like, "This is the manual one. This is the analog one." I'm like, there we go.
Old soul.
Yep. So that was Blossom. Yeah, and it's out. But yeah, I don't really compose so much. Like I said, I'm more of a producer and I enjoy producing. But yeah, once in a while, if one of these melodies happen in my head, I'm going to try and put it out.
So you said during the 10 years that you were in the States, you were sort of away from music a little bit. Obviously, you sort of slowly transitioned from recording and that side of things into production, into arranging. Was that transition something that happened while you were in the US? Were there sort of any sort of new musical influences or experiences that you had, or not really?
It was purely because I didn't have anyone around. I was in Bay Area. It was not LA. So when you're in Bay Area, it's just more of techies around you. I didn't have many friends, and the friends I had were not musicians, or the musicians that were around were not professionals. So I really didn't have, and be honest, I mean, it really didn't inspire me much. So I took on whatever inspired me at that moment, which was art. So yeah, I mean, it's like how life takes you around and shows you different possibilities and stuff. I was always an artist as well. So I was like, okay, let's probably music, that phase is over and I'm just going to get into, cooking and, knitting and art and all of that. So that went on, and then pandemic happened. That's when I was like, maybe music should be back. None of that was planned. It just, life goes on, and how things happen, and it just falls in place. That was all about it. Yeah.
When you say art, obviously now you do a lot of things. I've seen a lot of like hand-drawn and sort of like physical. I saw some things where you were like cutting up pieces of cardboard, it looked like, and sort of like created pieces of art out of it. I have no sense when it comes to visual art, so I don't know exactly what it was. It looked like that.
Quite possible. So the thing is, I have been following many artists, and when something inspires me, I really want to try it. So I don't stick to one form of art. I've tried a lot of things. I've tried carving, rubber carving, and then you stamp with that. I've tried that. Pyrography, which is basically burning wood and creating art out of that.
Okay.
And then pixel art. So I got a bunch of Lego pieces, and so basically you pixelate a picture on Photoshop, and then use that information, kind of choose similar colors from your Lego pieces, and then make an art out of that.
Wait, Lego as in physical Lego?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. Let me show you. I'll show you a picture of that. So if you go to my Instagram, I have another page called Sindhography.
Yes.
So what you see as Sindhography is the profile picture of
Yeah. I'm going to look that up right now.
is very much this headphones with a Lego picture of me.
I see. Okay. Now it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. This is a physical. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, only when I zoom in I can tell.
I mean, when you have a lot of time in your hands.
Hey, people have done a lot worse things with time on their hands.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
This is incredible. Oh, wow.
Thank you so much. And there was also I was working on coffee paintings for a while, so you can see some coffee paintings as well.
When you
bottom
say
of my page, you paint with coffee.
Different from latte art.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, never mind.
Coffee painting. So I use instant coffee powder because it's way more pigmented than actual coffee. Beans powdered. So I would work with that. I would make a thick paste out of instant coffee powder and water and use that as paint.
I didn't make that. Yeah. No,
it's in the bottom of my page. Yeah,
I saw
Steve
these
Jobs
pictures.
And
I didn't realize they were made out of coffee.
Yeah. You can hold it and
This
smell
is
it.
crazy.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh! I thought this was pencil or color pencil or whatever. Oh my gosh!
It's fun. And the challenge with coffee painting is you start shading with the lighter colors. You start using more water and then make thicker paste and do the darker ones. Because what happens is something I realized when I was starting out is that you paint a thick layer of coffee for something that's dark.
Right.
And then eventually you want to dilute, the whole paint is just washed out.
That's what I thought.
If you put like one stroke of like a brush stroke on it, it just washes away. So you're being very careful. You start with the lightest and then go dark.
So these contrasts between light and dark are just the ratio between coffee and water.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. That's
I see. How do you even think? I know nothing about art, by the way.
Oh, so how do I think? No. I did not invent it. Someone had already done it. Someone had already tried with tea. See, there's this website called Pinterest. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
Pinterest is great for designers. So you happen on many, many things. And of course, Instagram as well after that. I didn't know pyrography existed until I happened on it. So I was like, okay. And then went on Amazon and I bought a bunch of pyrography nibs. And it comes with like a soldering tool with different, tips. And then, so that is something I tried. I tried a column. And then I tried my cousin's dog. So, yeah. Just keep experimenting stuff. So I just like to keep doing whatever I can, whatever there is. And I'm a very DIY person. And then we bought a home sometime around 2018. So I stenciled the tiles. I made a brick wall. And
wait, what? You made a brick wall?
Yeah, so you get these little tiles that look exactly like brick, but it's like much thinner. So I went to the shop, got a lot of bricks, got boxes of those brick tiles, and then got the paste that you put on to stick on your wall.
Yeah.
So I did all of that, and it's all on my Sindhography page.
Wait. You're just exposing me for not doing enough research.
Ah, no. Well, it looks like you've done amazing research on all the music stuff that I've done. Like, things that are even
not the important stuff.
I'm like, how does he know these things? Like, where did you even listen to my interview? How did you know how Blossom happened? And I mean, you're amazing. How did you even like? that was amazing, man.
Wait. I need to find this brick wall thing. Hold on.
I don't think I put in a process of that.
This. I think
okay.
I found it.
Okay. Yeah. And then there's the stencil, which would be around it too. It's somewhere around, one of those posts. How I stencil the floors.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I knew you were into art, but I did not realize the number of strings to this bow. This is mad.
And then, the craziest thing I did was there was a piano somebody was giving away on Craigslist.
I saw. Go on.
So my I wanted to make a table out of a piano, and I had that craziest idea. And I've again seen it on Pinterest, but I was like, I got to make my own. And the idea was for me to pull the keys out and put my MIDI keyboard in, so I would make it more functional. Unfortunately, my MIDI keyboard was exactly the same size as the piano, so it wouldn't fit in. So I had taken out all the keys. I thought I would figure out a way to dismantle it, but I couldn't. But then I ended up sanding the entire thing and refinishing it, and I put it back. So it was like putting together an IKEA piece of furniture, but it was an actual functional piano. So if your piano is not working, you know whom to call.
Can you fly to Tokyo? That would be
nice. Buy me a ticket. I'll come down. I also know how to tune a piano. So
that's great.
It took me a week because I was like, sa, and I was doing that for like, a week.
But it's really sensitive, isn't it? Like I've heard from
some keys would have 3 strings. So you'll have to mute the other 2 and then tune. So, okay, I'm good in melodyming. No, I used a tuner. Come on, I was kidding about that.
No. But like aside from the hearing part, like the technical work of, I don't even know what happens.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, it's basically just going back and forth. Like how you tune a guitar. It's very much like that, but it's more like you need a hammer to move that. Yeah, it's because it's cast iron. So the part where all the strings are wound up is all made of cast iron, and it's like a 600-pound weight, which is what 300 and something kilos. Easily. Yeah, it depends on each piano. The one I had was a spinet, which is a much smaller one. Imagine grand pianos and how people would move them. It's extremely heavy, and it comes from the cast iron frame where all the strings are. Because if the strings have so much tension in them, imagine how strong the frame has to be, and that's cast iron. So it was beautiful working on that. So I made it a functional table, so I put my keyboard on it. I'm sure you'll find that as well on my page. So that's one of the things that I did.
Is this, obviously you talked about, music being something, you were interested in the sound aspect of things. In terms of these other forms of art and like the DIY stuff, does that go back to your childhood as well?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I mean, come on, it's like asking, how did you learn a language? How do you know Tamil? Do you remember learning it? No, right?
It's a little different.
You just grew up with it.
I guess.
Yeah.
So that means you grew up with art and with building things.
Well, so the art side is something I get from my mother, and music is something I get from my father. But that said, my dad also appreciates art. And my mom also appreciates music, but she doesn't have the musical sense. Like she would say, she has good taste. She would say it's a nice song. So my dad would know if a chord is off. My dad would know if somebody's singing off pitch. That's the difference. So I get art from my mom, and my mom used to do a lot of stuff too. Like she would crochet when she was pregnant with me. She would crochet and she would knit and do a lot of things. So she's passed on all of that to me.
See, it had to come from somewhere.
Of course.
Because, I mean, you're talking to someone who, like, I can't even draw a circle properly.
Me
I
neither.
remember.
You don't have
But
to
you
do
can do
that.
everything else.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't draw a straight line. Forget circle.
Straight line, I'll get away
Ask
with
me to write something without a ruled, just on a blank paper.
Uh-huh.
I would go like that. I need a little like guidance to like sit on that and write.
Yeah.
I need my lines.
With
So,
the lines and then the dashed lines in the middle.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving from art back to
Okay.
music.
Okay.
Let's come to your production and arrangement era, which I think primarily is the past few years.
Okay.
And I think something that's really fascinated me is your foray into a cappella and vocal
Okay.
harmonies. Obviously now recently you've done a lot of like reels and things like that, which, especially in Tamil or South India, where now a cappellas may be picking up a little bit, but it wasn't really something prominent.
Okay. Yeah.
How did you gain an interest in that, and what has your journey been like in a cappella?
Okay. There's a bit of honesty in my response also. Well,
Can we get
for
a bit of
me-
like show off honesty for once instead of like putting yourself
Okay.
down? Just joking.
you decide what that's gonna be. You decide what that's gonna be. No offense to any of my singer friends. They're all lovely.
Uh-huh.
I have always felt that as a producer, we don't stand much of a face when it comes to a song. Like, let's say, as a producer, I collaborate with another singer. No matter how much work the producer puts in, the singer gets all the name. It's maybe because the voice. I mean, it's just for a common man. It's just easy for them to relate to a person's voice and the singing than the production, right? So
you're saying in terms of how people perceive.
yeah. Unlike me, who listens to production first, right? So for me, it was more like a thing to like be out there because I wanted to show what I can do. So I was like, hey, I can sing and I can sing more and get better at that. So if I did produce and sing, I can put myself out there, I can put my face out there and just get a little bit more attention. So that's the part. That's the honesty part. So yeah, I was trying to show off, like you asked for.
There, finally, we got there.
Yeah. But okay, to answer your question, why a cappella? Because chords are something I have always been interested in working on. Like I can never settle for a simple, straightforward major or a minor, and sometimes even sevenths are boring. I always like a lot of added something.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, if you play a chord and ask me what chord that is, I wouldn't know because I'm not someone who learned music. I go by whatever I hear. So yeah, so it's just that. So I was like, okay, voice. I treat voice as an instrument. Like when it comes to a song, and wherever I would like to work on as a vocal arranger, I'm going to be treating my vocals as an instrument. So the way the harmonies are arranged and balanced would also be very much like, okay, I don't want to show off so much, like, but I'm saying how a conductor would think of,
right.
strings.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I'm just saying, for me, my vision is that in my head. It's just to bring out voices like instruments, and none of them is actually taking prominence. It's just there as background, and sometimes it's just energy, like how strings will come and go. It's just that. Sometimes it's just strings. Sometimes it's just entire vocals. Like if you listen to the song called "Remember Me" in my page.
Yes.
I'm singing one lead, but I've harmonized for the entire song. So I'm not doing unison anywhere. I'm harmonizing the entire song. So I wanted that depth and volume for the song. And when you hear it, you're not supposed to feel like you missed out on a bass or something that was like really high. Another trick that I did for that song, I'm pretty sure you know this too, and a lot of people do it, is to use a sub, like a -12.
Right.
pitch minus 12 some of the voices to give more depth, because I don't have a voice like S.P. Balasubramaniam, sir. So I had to bring that in Melodyne.
Right. Yeah, Remember Me was so beautiful. It's one of my favorites because I think original. I don't know if did you base it off BYU Vocal Point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
it was just a lift of that. I was not creative musically, but it's just that their piece. There were many singers.
Yeah.
There were many singers together. Here was all my voice. So I wanted to challenge and see how I could just do with one voice, harmonize, and my layers are just two. For every part that I'm singing, it's just 2 layers. So it was about how do I design that. It was more of an experimental project than creating something from scratch, I would say, that one. But yeah, part of the thing that I wanted to try out.
I mean, there's been so much sort of experimentation in the work that you've done. I feel, and I found it really interesting that you were saying, you find, I don't want to say simple, but like the foundational chords of like major, minor, or even sevenths, how they're a bit too plain. And that's why, I found that even when you do like covers or sort of arrangements of Carnatic songs, you take like songs with the wackiest ragams.
Oh, there's an interesting one coming up, and I have a cute story to say. So I'm working on a song which has an Arabic arrangement. The entire song would sound very Middle Eastern, classically, whatever. So it's going to have a lot of percussion. We recorded strings. We did a lot of those. And then there was a friend of mine, guitarist Bruce Lee. He was playing the chords for the song. So I gave him the set of chords. And then everything was like, it's like this with this bass. So, I mean, I'm not someone who can even write chords. So I would just tell him what chords I played on my right hand and my left. And he was sweet enough to convert that into chords the way he would play and then write it down. I was like, okay. And then the last chord was F. And it didn't have a minor. It didn't have a seventh. He was like, F what? I was like, no, just F. Seriously? I was like, yeah, just F. He was like, oh, kind of moment, because everything else was a colored chord. So yeah, watch out for that one. I'm really looking forward to putting that out.
That sounds like a combination of everything you've done so far. Like
I'll play you a scratch. I'll play you my scratch version.
Lovely, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I'm waiting to finish that song and mix it and put it out.
Because what was it? Transcendence? I can't.
Transcendence.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't speak English now. But that
I didn't even come up with the name. It was another friend of mine, Chitra Iyer, the singer. She's a good friend of mine. So she and I are connected very spiritually, and we talk about a lot of things. Okay. So I said, hey, and she's very poetic. She can write poetry. She can write lyrics, and she's very beautiful at that. So I reached out to her saying, hey, I'm looking for a name for this song, and this is the story, and this is how it happened. And she just came up with a word, and she said, it's transcendence. And I was like, whoa, I got to Google that. So, yeah. Okay, yeah. So what about transcendence? Sorry.
No, I was just saying, because you were talking about Middle Eastern percussion.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that, right? In that song?
Transcendence was, again, that was not necessarily Middle Eastern. It's just because I collaborated with a rabab player.
Right.
His name is Sanan Mahbub. I met him in Clubhouse, the audio platform.
Okay.
Yeah. So I saw him play. I heard him play in one of the rooms, and I reached out to him saying, hey, can you, play on one of my songs? And I gave him the notes, and he recorded with a Zoom mic. Yeah. It was all during the pandemic. So I've never met him in person. He recorded in Pakistan. He also got his friend to shoot the video, which came out very beautifully.
Yeah.
So, and the songs have the song has very beautiful visuals, and the visuals are very better than the song. A lot of people who saw it was like, no, a lot of people were saying where did you shoot it? I'm like, it was all over California. And I had an excellent team shoot the music video. So, yeah, I mean, it would be a little bit of Middle Eastern influence, I would say. But yeah, it was more, I don't know, hodgepodge of Indian and Middle Eastern and whatever is in my head.
Fair enough.
However confused I was at that point is being translated, is being transcended from my head.
A confused musician makes the best music. Musicians who have everything figured out, boring.
Well,
But you were talking about the future, and you were talking about this project that you're working on. What
okay.
what are the sort of musical and I guess in general artistic sort of projects that are taking up your time nowadays, and what are
Oh,
you looking to do in the future?
my future is never planned for more than 3 months from now.
Three
I'm
months is
just going to.
very long. I don't know
Oh,
what I'm doing
okay.
tomorrow. I don't know what I'm doing after
Okay.
this
Okay, that's
podcast.
good. Oh, that's good. I'll
Yeah.
probably go get dinner and sleep. Well, so currently I'm working on a logo design,
Okay.
and I'll be collaborating with another artist who's collected a lot of beautiful antique pieces of wood which has carvings on them. And he's given me this project saying, "Hey, I have a lot of these wooden pieces. I want you to convert them into something functional." So I'm just going to be designing that, and yeah, so I'm going to be doing that. And yeah, I mean, tapping as many doors as possible to arrange music, melodyne, and supervise and sing and harmonize whatever I can do.
It's
So yeah.
interesting. The thing about logo design, it's just something that popped to my head when you mentioned it. I don't know if my view is biased, or I've only been seeing certain things, but
Hmm.
I feel like there's a trend in logo design where everything it's becoming less, I don't know if fancy is the right word, but like there's a lot of logo redesigns recently where like maybe something more, I don't know what the right word is, like fancy and like flourishing and
I
curvy.
think like how the trend has always changed in music,
Yeah,
there's a trend that follows in art.
interesting.
So, and I think as generations pass, there have been older, very, very old brands of, I don't know, I'm not able to think of any brand right now at the top of my mind, but they have always been changes to logos that have existed for many, many years to keep up with, the current trend and how people think and their frame of mind. Sometimes it's just change in colors, sometimes it's just change in the font.
Mm.
Um, and things these days have so much, like when you go back in time, if you look at this series called Mad Men, I don't know if you've seen them in Netflix.
Okay.
They're all like based in the 60s or something, and everything about it is retro, and the series is based on this firm that runs an ad agency.
Okay.
Yeah, so the costumes, everything has this really beautiful retro look. So coming back to logo, you can even look up retro fonts, and you can look up all those olden magazine to give you that little certain look. So everything has a sort of time attached to the design.
Mm.
So yeah, you're not going to look at some logo and say, "Hey, this is timeless." I mean, you could, but I'm just saying when someone designs, it's very easy to say when it was designed,
Right.
more or less, I guess. So yeah, it's very very much like how music has changed over time. I would say design has also been the same, like fashion, everything.
Mm.
Things are changing. Children are changing. Our mindsets changing.
Oh gosh. I was about to say I'm the children, but maybe not quite there anymore.
Oh, I'm going to meet you after 30 years and ask you the same question. Have you changed?
So yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So just starting to wrap this up.
Perfect.
It was great to hear about a lot of your experiences both in music and in art in general. A lot of which I was not aware of. I apologize. Um,
Don't
but
be. Okay. I mean, come
uh,
on. If you knew everything about me, why would you be interviewing me, right?
very true. I like that perspective. Anyways,
But great homework, man. You
thank
reminded me of a lot of things that I forgot about myself.
Thank you. Just a couple of last things I'd like to touch on before we close out.
Mhm.
You mentioned this at the start of the podcast briefly, but obviously this podcast mini series is about the album that I'm releasing next month, and this is just sort of a journey to talk to a whole host of just incredible musicians and get to hear their stories. And I'm hoping this can be a sort of collection of stories from musicians, and it'll be interesting for people to hear from people who do different things within music and who come from different backgrounds and all that. But is there anything, obviously, you weren't involved in all of the songs. I don't know if you had the chance to listen to any of them, but
I think I only heard the song that you sent me to work on, and that was a
okay.
beautiful one. And I think I should form my set of questions and reach out to you and ask you after the whole album releases. How did you come up with the song? Can you walk us through this, and can you show us a breakdown session of
Oh God,
this particular
no.
song? And how did you choose this singer, or why did you decide to work with this musician? Blah blah blah.
But actually, something everyone has asked about, or not asked, but everyone has pointed out the fact that Vijay Narain sang this song.
Yeah, I know, because it was a very unusual choice for a Carnatic song.
Yeah.
Right? And I liked how his voice was very raw, and I kind of liked that about it. It was very different.
It's the emotion,
Right?
right?
Yeah. The emotion comes out more when it's more raw.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember talking to him, and I was like, what ragam was the song? It's like, it was a mix of this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa, okay. End of the day, we enjoy singing. And
Yeah.
I think it's the process of being involved in it than to pick and say, hey, this is what the sagam in the shuri priyam, all of that. No? So it's the process we enjoy. And, good luck on your album, because I can't wait to listen to the other songs.
Thank you so much.
I want to listen to the mix of the song as well.
Yeah, sorry, I think I forgot to send it to you. I will send you the whole album.
Okay, perfect. So when
Yeah.
are we releasing this again?
The album is next month.
Okay,
April
nice.
24th is the tentative date.
Beautiful. Oh, that's like a month out. More than a
Yeah.
month out.
I don't like to wait. If the song's done, it's coming out.
So what are we waiting for? Why is there a 1 month thing?
I mean, the album art's not done.
You let me know if you need any help on that.
I will let you know. For now, someone else is working on it.
Good. No, I'm just saying for
Yeah.
future albums, maybe.
But B also, I don't know if this is a thing in India. It must be. You have to submit your songs 3 weeks in advance.
2 weeks. Yeah. I
At
think
least
so.
in
Yeah.
Japan, it's 3.
3? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Or it's
And
like
are you
2
using
weeks
CD
and
Baby or something?
TuneCore.
Are you using TuneCore? Okay. Yeah, about the same, I think. TuneCore, CD Baby, and yeah, they would take about 2 weeks, but I don't know, it was 3. Maybe.
I mean, I think Japan being Japan, they give a conservative estimate because they don't want to get
Interesting.
things wrong.
Oh, so you're working on your art, and then but the mix and master is all done.
Everything's done. The songs are all
Beautiful.
done.
Oh, beautiful. I'd like to see the list of people who worked on it also. Like who's
Yeah,
mixed it
I
and
will
who's
show
mastered
you
it.
the list of credits after we
Beautiful.
finish. But yeah.
Beautiful. I can't wait for it.
One last question before you finish.
Okay.
And every podcast ends with the same question. And it's a very simple question with 4 words. What's on your playlist?
Silence.
John Cage 433. I got it.
I'll be honest, I've just been doing so much work lately, and sometimes it's nice to just take off from what you're not working on and don't listen to anything also. But yeah, I have a playlist for the gym, and that's not what I typically listen to.
Okay.
So, but yeah, there used to be a time I would like go on and on listening to some songs on loop mode, but right now I have nothing. It's just silence because there's so much going on around me, and I kind of enjoy that.
Fair enough. I
don't think anyone's given you this response.
So people usually start with that, and then they say, "Oh, okay, let me load up my Spotify," and then they'll give songs anyways. A lot of composers have said this. So like I remember talking to Girish Gopalakrishnan.
Okay.
And he was like, I can't listen to music just because his work is so much music. And
Right.
it's, you know, especially from a composer point of view, I think it's very you're mentally very involved,
Yeah.
and you're listening so carefully. So I think for him, he was just like, after I go home, forget all that.
Yeah.
So I think you're
That's
coming from a similar point of view.
absolutely because I also work out of home, so there's no going home.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah. So there's so much happening. It's like there's someone sending me a song to melodize, some supervision happening, and some art and blah blah blah. So if you're traveling somewhere, you're listening to the radio. That's not in your song, playlist. It's some Uber guy's radio or the car you're on. So I just listen to whatever comes that way. Or I'm on a call. So yeah, I like to be busy, which
Mm.
is touch wood. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to make a new playlist.
Well, then on the next podcast, I'm looking forward to.
And I'm looking forward to your song in my playlist.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's been a while since I heard it. Wasn't it in September or something, right?
That
End
was
of September. September or October. Yeah, that's when we worked on it.
Yeah. That's when
Beginning
we
of
worked on it.
October. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, very good memory.
No, I just remember some events around then. So
Okay, fair enough. All right, so
All
yeah,
right.
in terms of the podcast itself, I'll sort of cut it off there. Just want to say thank you once again for your time. It was a very honestly, like I have no idea what I spoke because I just spent most of my time just
I'm sure you have a lot of editing to do. A lot of it.
not at all.
Yeah, you're not going to like talk about how you're looking through my Instagram and finding something.
Okay, yeah. To be
That's
fair,
just all audio style, right? Yeah, I'm sure you're going to like clip out. But yeah, let's not bore people. You found it interactive because I know you, you know me, you've seen my
Yeah.
work, so it's interesting. For someone who's hearing audio for the first time, they're like, "This girl's talking too much."
No, don't say this boy is talking too much. You're fine.
No, this boy asks a lot of questions. நிறைய கேள்வி கேட்கறான்பா இந்த பையன் ஒண்ணு விடாம போயிட்டே இருக்காமா. Yeah.
அதான் இன்டர்வியூவரோட வேலை என்ன
ஆமா.
பண்ண. Well, that was Sindhu Rajaramji on this episode of the Life Until 23 series of the Influencers podcast, and thank you to everyone that has tuned in. I'd really appreciate your support with my album, which you can find on all streaming platforms and on my YouTube channel with links in the description. Let us know what you thought of the songs, and if you liked them, please do share them around with your family and friends. Thanks so much for all the love and support, and I'll see you next time.